What we're going to be looking at today is using percentages. So this is 3.1 in the textbook, and it's one of the first things we're doing in Year 12 Maths A. So what I'm going to do is run through the examples in your textbook so you get a better understanding of what's happening. So the first thing we're going to look at is using percentage. So Gianna bought a wetsuit in December for $3.50 and sold it in March for $1.50. What was her loss as a percentage of, and so on and so forth. What you really need to look at when you first look at these questions is, did she make money or did she lose money? Because you're always going to be figuring out profit or loss first. So when you look at this, she bought it. Just bear with me for a moment, please. Bought it for $350, sold it for $150. So it's obvious she lost money. Okay? So we need to figure out how much she lost. So her loss equals $350, take $150, which is $200. Okay? The next thing we've got to look at is the two other questions. And these type of questions are really dependent on literacy, so you've got to pay attention. So generally what we're looking at is, what was her loss as a percentage of buying price and selling price? So we're looking for percentage loss. Okay? And it will be whatever the first thing they stated. So in this case, the first thing they stated was loss, and that will go on the top of the equation. The second thing they state, in this case, it comes after the of word, is buying price. So it's going to go on the bottom of the equation. Because we're looking for a percentage, we multiply by 100 at the end. So the loss we worked out is 200. The buying price from the question is 350, and we multiply by 100. So if we put that into our calculator, it is 57.1%. Please make sure that you put the percent symbol at the end. So remember, you do get marked in units, which is why I come back and put the dollar symbol in. For the second one, for B, that's one I'd like you guys to have a go at. You can check in the book to see if you get the right answer. Okay? But it's the same procedure. It will be loss, but instead of being over buying price, it will be over selling price, which is $150. So we're going to move on to this one here. So, a clothing retailer uses a markup of 85%. A particular brand of jeans is bought for $76. What will be the selling price of the jeans? Notice the word markup. Markup is what the stores charge you extra so that they make a profit. So when you're looking at anything, okay, the original price is 100%, and then they add on more percentage after that. So there's two ways to go about this question. So I'm going to show you both ways. So the first way is you can work out the markup first. It's 85% of, now BP stands for buying price, which is 85% of 76. 85 can be written as 0.85. Of means multiply. We put that in our calculator and we end up with $64.60. So we figured out how much extra we're going to pay. To figure out the actual selling price, SP, it will be buying price plus markup, which will be 76 plus 64.60, and we get to $140.40. So that is one method we can go about working out how much the jeans will cost. However, there's another method. So remember before I said the original cost would be 100%? So we can use that concept to work it out. So we know that the selling price will be, equals the buying price plus 85%. And I've told you already the buying price is 100%. So the total percentage is 185%. Now we can write 185% as 1.85. Okay? So it's times by the buying price, which is 76. And this will give you the exact same answer. It's just an alternate way of going about it. So all you need to do in this case is choose which one you're more familiar with and remember it. You don't really need to remember both methods. Now, this particular question I do quite differently to what's in the textbook. Okay, so when I'm looking at this, Carl sold an MP player for $120, making a loss of 20%. What did Carl pay for the MP3 player? Well, 100 minus 20 is 80%. Okay, so original cost is 100%. He lost 20%, so he's got 80% left. And we know that the 80% is what he sold it for, which is $120. What I like to do now is I take everything back to 1% and then bring it back up. So, how you go about that, whatever the percentage is here, in this case it is 80%, I divide both sides by. And I would end up with 1% equals 120 divided by 80. 1.5. And what I would do next is, from 1% to 100, we multiply it by 100. So 100% equals $150. If the percentage changes, so the number underlined in red up here, okay, then you divide by whatever that number is. The last question I want to have a look at is this one here. It's a little bit more involved in this question. So, there's a little statement up the top, just so you know about it. We talked about a lot of this last year, so it should just be a revision. The payment of money for a loan is called interest, and the amount of money borrowed or lent is called the principal. Really hope you remember that from last year. The interest rate is worked out as a percentage of the principal for 1 year. So if the interest is not actually for 1 year, we have to calculate out a special rate. In this case, a pro rata amount is used to make 1 year's worth of interest at the same rate. The phrase interest rate nearly always means the nominal interest rate. So Anna received payments of $38 a quarter from $2,500 worth of Australian savings bonds. What was the amount of interest for 1 year? You've got to get used to the terminology of time frames. So a quarter means you split the year into 4. So 1 year will equal $38 times by 4, which will be $152. And what we can look at then is, remember when we're trying to find the percentages, it's the first thing divided by the second thing. So for our interest rate, the first thing we're looking at is the amount of interest we made, and it will be divided by the amount things cost. So our interest rate in this case is the interest we paid, so the interest divided by the principal. So the interest is 152 and the principal is 2,500. Now remember, we're changing to a percentage, so we need to times by 100 at the end. And if we put that into our calculator, we end up with 6.08% interest. Okay, so that's the first starting point on using interest. If you want to practice these, you should be going and looking at exercise 3.1 and going through questions up to about 15 or 16. Okay, thanks guys.